Welcome back, my friends. Sorry about the late upload. I've been a busy man, if you didn't know. I've been doing lots of stuff this week. Had a lot of tests to study for, had a lot of other business matters to take care of, had my dad's birthday, just life stuff. But welcome back to this week's episode of Desert Heat Sports Podcast. I'm going to talk about a lot of things this week. I'm going to skip the intro describing what I want to talk about the whole show. I'm not going to do that anymore. This is the last reminder of that. But I was going to start with UFC talk. Can't do that now. Want to start with this. The Pats. I think there's been so many Pats conspiracies, and I think it's time that I tell mine. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they're playing everyone like a fiddle. I didn't buy into this Gronk, Brady, Belichick, Kraft drama. I didn't buy into any of it, even though it's being reported and yada, yada, yada. And at the time when I wrote down my thoughts on this, people were saying that they were going to trade Gronk, which turned out to be a lie. They didn't actually want to trade Gronk. So I think that's just more evidence to show that this stuff is mostly fabricated. And then another point is, do you think Bill Belichick is really so unstable that he would hold an angry grudge against the owner of the place he's been working for the past 20 years, where he's been really successful too, just because he supposedly wouldn't let him trade Brady or get rid of Brady? I don't think so. I don't think Kraft made him trade Garoppolo. I think he chose to. I think Garoppolo's value went down. Maybe they thought they would be able to sign him to a smaller contract. I don't know. But I do know that Bill Belichick seems pretty stable and really good at his job. So I highly doubt that he's some kind of grudge-holding maniac. Even though, yes, it is true that he really doesn't like the Browns, but that's different, That's like a big slight versus the small slight of, not letting him get rid of Brady. I think it's different. So I don't really buy into that. And also, I'm not really completely 100% sold on Jimmy Graham at this point. I mean, he doesn't have a signature win. He doesn't have a signature moment. Doesn't have anything to show how great he can be. I mean, he's made some good plays, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the games he was playing didn't really matter. He beat teams a lot of the time that weren't all that good, beat the Rams when they weren't starting anybody anymore, weren't really playing for anything, beat the Jags on the road, who, if you remember, the week before just lost to the Cardinals at home, who were pretty bad. And some of his other wins, I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, sure, his surrounding team isn't that great and all that, but I just don't see this generational talent, or at least not yet. I think he can get there. I think he has shown a lot of talent. A lot of the stuff he was doing was good. I just haven't seen enough of it to know if he's worth this huge contract or worth the hype that he's getting right now. So we'll see next year, obviously. But I don't think at this point there's enough evidence to say, oh wow, Bill Belichick really got shafted in this trade. Not really. I think my real prediction, part of my conspiracy, I think they're purposely putting this stuff out that they're mad at each other to the media, because what better to make your opponents think that you're in chaos when you're really not? And I wrote this too. Down in my notes, like a week ago, before I saw how all this stuff was playing out. I said, do I know what their end game is yet? No. But maybe it'll show itself soon. And since I wrote this, the Gronk stuff's confirmed fake. And they just traded Brandon Cooks for a first-round pick, which I think means they're getting a quarterback. Most likely either Baker Mayfield or Josh Rosen. I doubt they go after Josh Allen. They like high accuracy passers, and Josh Allen's just a big arm. And Sam Darnold, I highly doubt he'll be there, but you never know what can happen. Maybe the Patriots put together some crazy trade and get him. But I think this all but confirms that they're going up early to get a good quarterback. So this trade was, I think, pretty good for both sides. I mean, the Rams don't really need much. They got what they needed. And this goes into two things. I'm going to get into the trading aspect in a little bit when I talk a little bit more about Odell and some of this other stuff. But first, I'm going to get into finish this point where like I said, I think Bill Belichick is a lot more Frank Underwood season 2 than he is Frank Underwood season 5 or 6. If you get the reference. I mean, but just by that, I mean he's a lot more calculated and diabolical than clumsy and angry. So I think, like I said, I think they're in a good spot. They got a lot of picks. I think with this pick, they trade up. Most likely, I could see them going to 9, maybe 6. I don't think they can get much higher than 6 with the Colts. I think 9 and 6 are the most likely. I think they also try to do this to get in front of the Bills. I think they're going to work really hard to try to get something done before the Bills are able to, because I know that they know the Bills want a quarterback, and at this point, so do they. So they're going to have to get in front of the Bills, kind of like confirmed in front of the Bills, before they can pick the quarterback of their choice, or before they can feel comfortable picking the quarterback of their choice. So that means they either got to get to the 2, or they got to get to the 6, or they got to get to the 9, and then somehow get up further than that, which I think they can do because they have a good combination of picks. And it's either some combination of the 23, the 31, 43, I think it is, and then some like 60, I want to say 60. So they have a good amount of picks. They have a good amount of capital to make a move. They've got a lot of I think they now have 5 in the top 100. So they have capital to make a move. They're able to do it. But I think the main takeaway for me is that people need to realize that the Patriots are really calculated, and I think it shows from what they've done in the past. I don't think they're clumsy and not able to hold it in anymore. I think you got to pump the brakes on that, and you'll see it next year, especially once they get this quarterback to sit behind Brady for a year. This quarterback they get, I mean, I think Baker Mayfield could be really good in that situation. Baker Mayfield is a really high accuracy passer, and that's what Brady is, essentially. Baker's obviously not as tall, but similarly, they're not uber athletes. They're not blowing your hair back with speed. They don't do one thing like exceptionally. They're really accurate. They're really gritty. They have a love for the game. I think, in all honesty, the best fit for the Patriots would be Baker Mayfield because of his accuracy, because of his demeanor. I think, while it's not similar to Brady's, I think it can morph more towards Brady's, especially if he sits behind him. The number 2, I mean, Josh Rosen would be really good. I mean, not Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold would be really good, but I'm just thinking he won't be available when the Patriots are able to pick. So I think that once the Patriots make their trade up, it'll become more obvious what they're doing, especially once it gets closer to the draft and more teams get their draft boards set up. Time will tell. Time is the greatest answer. You give it enough time and it'll answer itself. I really do think they're going after Baker Mayfield, because I also did before last week, before they made this trade too, said I think they're going to pick up Johnny Manziel. I don't think that now. I definitely think they're drafting a guy. I think they're staying away from Johnny Manziel, especially after what I heard him say, where he basically tried to say, oh, Browns, you should have known you were drafting a guy who was not very good. I mean, what a stupid statement. Like, I'm a Johnny Manziel guy, but you say something really stupid like that, and it shows why you weren't really drafted in that spot. So anyways, I think the Patriots will be in a good spot going into next year. The other point I wanted to make was the Rams. I think they got pretty good value. I mean, first picks are never guaranteed. I think that I don't know why they hold first round picks in such high regard. Like, obviously, it's basically a guarantee you're going to get a good player, but there's always busts. You never know. And when you get a guy like Brandon Cooks, you already know what you're getting with him. So I think it's a lot safer to go that route. So I like what they did. They don't need much else. They obviously chose Cooks over Odell for some reason. Could be money, could be some other stuff, the way he fits with the locker room, what they project him needing and all this stuff. So I like the move. I think that brings me into another good point, which is Odell Beckham. And I really think he is worth a lot more than just one first rounder. I mean, he's the best wide receiver in the league. He can do so much. If he could just get the off the field part correct, he could really be one of the greats. But until he does that, I mean, until he stops lining up the Parmesan for his pizza, if you know what I'm saying. If you saw the video, wasn't really Parmesan for his pizza, but he was lining it up. Some white powdery substance next to a pizza. You be the judge. But until he stops doing stuff like that, he won't be able to be a great. It'll just be, par for the course. He'll just be too distracted and won't really be able to make an impact. But like I was saying, I think he's worth more than one first rounder because you know what you're getting. You know you're getting a great player. With a first rounder, like, sure, you could get a player that's really, really good, but are you going to get a player as good as Odell? No way. And is it a guarantee? No. So basically not giving up a first rounder for Odell is essentially like saying, I'd rather gamble that I can get a player that's not as good as Odell or equal to Odell, because I highly doubt you'll be able to get a player better than Odell because he's a all-time talent. So I mean, you're basically gambling that you'll be able to get a player who's similar in skill level or not as good. And it's a gamble. Like I said, it's a gamble. You don't know that you're going to get that. So getting Odell for more than a first round pick is easily worth it because like I said, you know what you're getting. You're not going to be fooled. You're not going to be like, what? I thought I was getting this and he's busting. No, it's not going to work like that. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a person who would rather get some things guaranteed than take the gamble. And maybe it is partially because some of the teams don't like what he has to offer off the field and the fact that he has gotten hurt a couple times. But I think if you're looking from a straight talent standpoint and what you're getting in a trade versus what you're getting from the draft, I think that it's a no-brainer to trade a first rounder plus for Odell. The max I might even do like a first, a third, and a next year's fifth or something like that. Like, the fact that people could be like, he's not even worth a first. Are you kidding me? What are you going to get not in the first that's close to Odell? I mean, sure, you could get extremely lucky and get like a Russell Wilson in the third, or you could get like I don't even know. That's exactly my point, though. Who are you thinking you're getting outside the first that's going to be Odell level? And how often does it even happen? I mean, you think about the great players you get that are more valuable than Odell, not in the first round. You think Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott to a certain extent, but honestly, I'd take Odell over Dak Prescott at this point. What we've seen from Dak Prescott hasn't been completely consistent, so outside the first round, you got Russell Wilson, you got Dak, you got, obviously there's some receivers, like the Packers have Devontae Adams, but I love Devontae Adams. He's a really, really good receiver, but he's not Odell. The Packers have a ton of second round receivers they got. I mean, Antonio Brown, I'm pretty sure the Steelers found him in like the 5th or the 6th. I mean, the Steelers are just really good. The Packers and the Steelers are really good at drafting receivers. But most of the receivers you get aren't going to be Odell talent, and I think you could argue that Odell is better than Antonio Brown. Obviously, Antonio Brown's been more consistent and put up more of a career than Odell because he hasn't been so crazy off the field, and I think a bigger point is he hasn't been so inconsistent at the quarterback position. He's had a lot of stability there with Big Ben. Big Ben's a really consistent guy. He puts together big games on a regular basis, so that's also got something to do with it. So I don't know. We'll see what the future has in store, but I think if a team is afraid to trade more than a first rounder for Odell, or not even a first rounder for Odell, they're crazy, because what they're getting in return for the pick is most likely more than what they would get out of the pick. So yeah. Anyways, next up, I gotta talk about UFC 223. I would talk about the fights, but just today, some crazy events happened while I was at work. I come home and I see Conor McGregor and his crew tried to throw like a barricade in a chair through a window of a bus. I don't know what they were thinking. I think that's really stupid of them to do. Obviously, I don't know the backstory of it too well. I think something happened with Khabib and Artem the night before, and they were trying to get back at him. Don't know why they'd take it to that level. You got to be professional, but I don't care. They're fighters. They're not like, it's not like they're, and even in other professions, I don't really care what you do in your personal life, but at least it's not like a public position. They're fighters. That's what they're known to do. They're known to do crazy stuff. They go in there and punch each other in the head. I mean, what do you expect? It's all you. I mean, you don't expect rappers to be, these perfect people outside of rap. Obviously, you don't expect them to be high-standing citizens. Obviously, they can be, but you don't expect that. So I think the same standard goes with UFC fighters. They can be great people outside, and Conor McGregor does a lot of great stuff. He gives to charities, he gives back to his community, he does all this. But you can't expect him to not do, you can't expect him to not do something like that, obviously, as a professional, but you can't be surprised when he does. Because in the end, he's a fighter, he takes risks, he does crazy stuff for a reason. So that's why it's not too big of a, oh my God, for me. Still my favorite fighter of all time. Still one of my favorite athletes of all time. Nothing will change that. So something like that won't change it. If he does something in ring or something revolving around fighting, that could change it. But he won't. He's not that kind of fighter, not that kind of athlete. So to get into a bigger point is, I got another conspiracy. This is like a conspiracy episode. So I think that Dana White is, honestly, I think he knew of this. He knew something like this was going to happen, and he let it happen because he knows. Tell me how this coincidence happens. 6 days before the fight, Tony Ferguson sees somebody, turns, blows out his knee, turning to say something to someone he didn't expect to see. So that happens. He has to pull out. Max Holloway comes in. Now they have to promote a new fight on 6 days' notice, along with, the fighters having to get ready. The UFC team has to be able to put out advertisements and, try to get attention that this isn't going to be the fight you were expecting, but it's still going to be good. That's what they're trying to do. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as good, but they gotta promote it like it will be. So 6 days ago, that happens. And then today, now, 3 days before the fight, Conor McGregor, their biggest star, just so happens to show up at Barclays and cause a giant commotion. Come on, tell me that's just a coincidence. He causes a giant commotion and Dana White goes, oh, Conor McGregor's going to get sued and he's going to go to jail. There's a warrant for his arrest. Meanwhile, no warrant for his arrest. Dana White just wants the free press coverage. Give me a break. Of course that's what's happening. I don't know how you could really consider this a conspiracy. Obviously, it's not true yet, but Come on, it's just too obvious. Dana White's piggybacking on this. He knew something like this would happen. He let it happen. He wants the free press. He wants the thing to explode. He wants UFC 223 out there. And he wants more people talking about it so more people will buy it. I think another thing could be that he wants to diminish some of the star Conor has because he doesn't want him to have so much power in the UFC. That could be a point. He wants to make McGregor look like a criminal, give some power to Holloway or Khabib when one of them win. That could be a very good point. I think that could be true. But as it remains to be seen today, the biggest thing is Dana White knew something like this would happen. When he comes in rushing in like that, obviously Conor McGregor was going to be at the fight, and I think the original plan for after the fight was McGregor was going to go into the ring and call someone out, and they were going to schedule something for later on in the year. So I think that was the original plan, but once everybody knew, if you're in the fight world, everybody knew what happened between Lobov and Khabib and how Khabib's team kind of cornered him in a hotel. People knew about that in the days before, and obviously as the president of the UFC, you would know if something like that's going down. So obviously Dana White knew what was going down. I don't think he knew it would happen to that extent, but I think he did know something was going down, and now he's just using this, piggybacking off of this. I won't go as far as to say that he created this, he told McGregor to do this, but I will go as far as to say that now he's not going to press charges against McGregor. He's not going to do anything like that. He's definitely going to use this as an advertising tool for the event. So my expectation is McGregor gets 6 month to a year suspension, which obviously I don't want to see. Hopefully it's 6 months, so then they can just go, oh, whenever whoever wins, they go and they do the fight later on in the year, and everything's good to go. But I think it's going to end in a 6 month to a year suspension. Obviously Dana White has to do something that was out of hand, uncalled for, all that stuff. But so I think that'll happen. But I do want to talk about one other thing before I get into the fight card. This is another little news tidbit. Brock's return, all but confirmed. Like I said before, Dana White went out and said the other day, I think it might have been yesterday or today, that Brock Lesnar is guaranteed going to fight in the UFC before the end of the year. Just like he said with Jon Jones, just like he said with Conor McGregor. Now the Conor McGregor thing is up in the air, obviously, but as it stands now, like I said, Brock Lesnar, he's going to go in, he's going to lose at WrestleMania. Sorry for my wrestling fans that I had to spoil it for you. He's going to lose at WrestleMania. He's going to leave the WWE. Take a couple fights in the UFC, make a lot of money, then go back to WWE probably sometime next year or the year after. And I think I'm happy with that. Seeing Brock Lesnar fight is fun, okay? And I don't care how many haters he has and all that. I like watching it, and I'm ready to see it. So, yeah, his return all but confirmed. Like I said a couple weeks ago, if you listened. So, anyways, now to get into the big deal. We've been waiting. You've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this. Waiting for a big fight card to talk about and to make bets on too, which will happen at the end. But for now, I want to talk about... Actually, you know what? I'll just do my betting picks for it now while I'm going over it. There's no point in waiting. So the fight card, I'll go from the bottom up. You got to build up some kind of tension or suspense. And updates from the McGregor thing. I think the Chiesa versus Pettis fight got canceled because Chiesa got hit by something in the eye and he got cut, and now he's not able to fight, which I think is really, really, really sucky. It's not good. He put in all that work, and for something out of his control to happen like that really, really sucks. So I hope he gets better soon and is able to fight on an upcoming card. I think he should get paid for this. It wasn't his fault he's not able to fight. It's not like he was cutting weight and wasn't able to do that and all that stuff. So that fight's out of there, which sucks because I thought it would be a pretty good fight, especially because I wanted to see Pettis fight too, but whatever. The other fight that got taken off was on the prelims. It was Artem Lobov versus Alex Caceres. I didn't see in any video what Lobov had to do with it. I think he probably had something to do with it. I didn't see specifically him do anything. I don't know if it's guilt by association or something, but he's out now too. So, and they're also not getting a replacement for him. So, hopefully there's no more depletion of this card, because this card was a really good one, and now it's looking it's getting slim. It's getting down there. So, we'll start off with the first fight on the prelims. We have Evan Dunham versus Oliver Aubin Mercier. I think that's how you say it. His name's the Quebec Kid, so that's definitely how you say it. He's French, and he lives in an English-speaking country. That's a story for another day. So what do I think in this fight? We got Oliver Aubin Mercier at 11-2, and Evan Dunham at 18-6, and I'm pretty sure Aubin Mercier, his last few fights he won, and I'm pretty sure he won them pretty handily. Don't quote me on that. I'm not super up to date with an unranked lightweight fighter, but I'm pretty sure he has been coming up. And Evan Dunham, don't know much about him either. Really, I know the name. I can't put the name to any fights either, and I'm a pretty big fight fan, so that's should be kind of telling the story there. If I had to go, I'd just honestly go with Oliver Aubin Mercier, because I know his game more, and I know he's really good on the ground. So, give me him. Won't give a bet on that, because I'm not very, confident about that. So, don't take that. You know what? I might just give picks for the main card. So, anyways, Joe Lozon versus Chris Grutzemacher. Don't know how to say that. What kind of last name is that? It's got to be German or something. Anyways, that fight's going on. That's another lightweight fight. Joe Lozon is like maybe 100 years old, and he's fighting this Grits. His nickname is Grits, so I'm just gonna say that. Chris Grits. I don't want to say Chris Grits, actually. I'm just gonna say Grits. So Joe Lozon versus Grits. All right. Don't know much about Grits. I know Joe Lozon is old and has been knocked out lots, but in his last fight he actually looked pretty good. So there's a couple ways this fight could go. Like I said, when I don't know your name, it's probably not good when you're a fighter, because I know basically every fighter. Obviously can't say that now, because first two fights I've known of three of the guys, but not known them well. This is not looking good if you want to take my advice on picks. But I promise you I do know the fight game, and I know a lot of these guys in here. So, most of them. So, I'll take Joe Lozon just because I know him. Won't go much farther than that. This fight, here we go. Ray Borg versus Brandon Moreno. This is a fight. Brandon Moreno is a really young guy. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, not this last season, but the season before that. Actually, I think 2 seasons before that. It was the fight. It was the Ultimate Fighter where Tim Elliott won and got to face Demetrius Johnson, the one where they got all the championship or the champion holder 125ers, and they all went at it in the tournament to face Demetrius Johnson. Brandon Moreno was pretty good. He ended up losing to Alexandre Pantoja, who is a really good fighter, and he's in the UFC now too. So Brandon Moreno, I like him. He's a young fighter. He's a really, really, really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He gets a lot of submissions. He's won his first 3 fights, I think, or he won his first 2 fights and lost this last one. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he's won his first 3 fights though, and he goes against Ray Borg. Ray Borg just got beat down, if you don't remember, and Ray Borg is the one who he got that flying armbar from Demetrius Johnson, the really the really, really demoralizing one that won submission of the year. That's what this guy's known for. He's basically a wrestler. He takes guys down and basically beats on them. I don't know if that game plan will work against Brandon Moreno, who's really crafty and can slip in a lot of different submissions in his game. So I don't know if I'd expect Ray Borg to be able to do what he does to a lot of the guys that he's beaten. So in this one, I would take Brandon Moreno. I'd take him either in a decision or like a second round or first round submission. Maybe second or third round submission, actually. I think the line on this card has Brandon Moreno actually plus 230, Ray Borg minus 300. So that's a pretty big split. I think Brandon Moreno is definitely a good dog pick because like I said, the matchups. Ray Borg's more of a wrestler. Neither of these guys are good on the feet or great on the feet. They're obviously both good on the feet, but they're not great on the feet. So it's going to go to the ground either way. And I think Moreno is just going to find a way to be able to slip some kind of submission in there, some kind of choke, some kind of arm bar, something like that. So he'll be able to get in there and get something. If I had to bet, I would definitely, my money would be on Moreno. That's basically where you'd make your money at. The next fight, I like this fight a lot. This fight is Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Felice Herrig. Now, both of these fighters are really, really good. Karolina, she just lost her last fight actually pretty handily, which was kind of sad to see, but she did beat down the current champion, Rose Namajunas. So I think a lot of what you're going to see in the women's division is about matchup, and I'll get into that later when I talk about the co-main event. But in this one, I can't say I really like Felice Herrig as a fighter. I think she's really good, but I can't say that I see her winning because I think Karolina she's just too strong. Sure, her striking is too technical for her. Felice Herrig has really good striking. It's technical, but it's not at the same level as Karolina's, and I don't think Felice Herrig will be able to take her down. And honestly, I think she will be taken down by Karolina at some point. But to be honest, I don't know that this fight will be all that close. And I think the odds kind of show that. They're similar to the last fight. You have Karolina minus 200, Felice Herrig plus 160. So not too far apart, but definitely far enough apart where you could definitely take Karolina and be safe in that one, even as the favorite. So, yeah, like I said, Felice Herrig, though, really cool fighter. I like her. She's jacked. She's shredded, especially for a girl fighter. Super, super shredded. Like, not a lot of these girl fighters look like bodybuilders, but Felice Herrig has a bodybuilder look. She just looks crazy, and she likes to do she dresses up like the video game characters, which I think is pretty funny. But yeah, I like both of these fighters. I know lots of people will be rooting for Herrig because people like the underdog, but definitely if you're betting, take Kowalkiewicz. She's the way to go. Minus 200. Next one. Oh, this one's pretty good. This one, Paul Felder versus Al Iaquinta. This one's a good fight. Al Iaquinta, he hasn't fought in a while. He's part of this. He's got this thinking where he wants to get paid, but he's not like a star. It's weird. He'd rather go and do real estate than fight at this point. He likes fighting, don't get me wrong, but it seems like he isn't 100% committed. So, and I'm pretty sure he's been fighting for a really long time, since 2013. So he's definitely got some experience. He's only got 2 losses in the UFC, won the Ultimate Fighter Championship to they're tough. the Ultimate Fighter Championship. Please forget that I said that. He lost the main event of Tough to Michael Chiesa. So that was his first loss. His other loss was to Mitch Clark, who don't remember that well. 2014. That was around the time I started watching UFC, 2014-ish. So don't remember that fight. Other than that, he's beat some good guys, some old guys. He beat Jorge Masvidal before he moved up to 170. Just beat Diego Sanchez pretty handily, if you don't remember that fight. But that was his first fight, actually, before he fought, or that was his first fight in a while. The last time he fought before that was in 2015, so a 2-year layoff. This time it's a 1-year layoff. His last fight was April 22nd of 2017, with this fight being April 7th of 2018. It's basically a year, so a little bit of a long layoff, longer than most, but he is the favorite over Paul Felder, which I don't think is that surprising. Paul Felder, he's a good fighter, but he doesn't do anything like exceptionally. Like, he's not great at one thing. He's more of a jack of all trades, but not even a jack of all trades. He's basically just good at everything. I think he could be like a 10 of all things. if you're going by cards, like a 10 of all things. But yeah, let's see his past fights. 3 losses. Lost to Francisco Trinaldo, Ross Pearson, who Iaquinta beat, and Edson Barboza, which, yeah, you can't fault him for losing to Barboza, but, you know, if you want to be a top contender, you got to win against good guys. And I don't think the level of guys that this guy has beat Paul Felder at being is high enough for me to say that it changes my mind on him. I remember his past fights. He... not very fun to watch either, Paul Felder. But we'll see. We'll see how his style goes up against Iaquinta's fight style, and we'll see what they have to offer. I think Iaquinta wins, though, and the betting odds, they agree with me. They have Iaquinta minus, what is he at? Minus, can't find the fight now. Great. Right here, minus 140. So minus 140 isn't bad either. Take Iaquinta, definitely, for the safer pick. Next up, Chiesa versus Pettis. Can't bet that one, obviously, because Chiesa got hit in the head with something and is out of the fight, which sucks. That was going to be good. Next fight after that, which they're trying to brand some of these guys, get these guys' names out there, but one guy I really do like. So Renato Moicano, ranked 11th at 145 versus Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar he's really, really good. He's really good. His last fight I remember watching, I think it was at UFC. I want to say it was on the card where Yoel destroyed Luke Rockhold and sent him to another planet. But oh no, it was on the one where Stipe fought Ngannou. I remember that now. He got the knockout against Shane Burgos. That was a really good fight. If you don't remember, they basically went to war in one fight of the night. So his fighting style, I think he's more of a knockout artist, heavy striker, which is a style I really like. I think he has good movement from what I've seen. He's only got 2 previous fights in the UFC other than this one, so I like what he's got to offer. I think coming up, he's young too, so we'll see what he has to offer in this fight, especially against a higher ranked fighter who's also only got 1 loss. I like both of them, but I don't know that Moicano he'll be able to stand with him. I don't think he will be. If he's able to take him down, we'll get to see what Kattar's takedown defense looks like, though, because I can guarantee you, because Moicano's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. He takes people down, tries to submit them. So we'll see what he's able to do against Kattar. If he's able to stuff him, it'll be a really long night for Moicano because he'll probably get knocked out. But if Kattar's takedown defense isn't up to par, isn't up to snuff, we'll see probably a submission. But like I said, I like Qatar, and so does Vegas. Looking at it now, they got Qatar minus 130. So take him too. So far I got 3 favorites, 1 underdog. We'll see what what the next fights have to offer. The next one being Joanna versus Rose. I like this one. I thought the last fight, I can't explain it, it'll sound weird, but I just had a feeling. I thought, like, if I had to bet money on it, I would have bet the last fight on Joanna. But the day of the fight, I woke up and I just had a feeling all day that Joanna, whenever I was talking to my friends about the fights, I just had this feeling that Rose was going to win. And I even told them, I'm like, if I had to bet right now, I would bet on Joanna. But I have a feeling that Rose is just going to knock her out and do something crazy. And, lo and behold, see what happens. She did. But I think some of it has to do with some other circumstances. Joanna's weight cut last fight was really, really bad. And I know that's not an excuse. You shouldn't have excuses like that because, you're a fighter. That's part of the job. If you're going to do that, you better be on top of it. And that's true. But I think you have to take that into consideration when a fighter has a bad performance, even if it may be their fault. They can't blame it on someone else. But if you want to talk about factors, that's definitely a big factor. And if you saw the video of her the final night of her weight cut right before she's trying to make weight, and she's sitting in the bathtub with wrapped up if you don't know how they do it, they sit in the bathtub in the hot water and they wrap their arms, or they sit in the sauna and they wrap their arms in towels and they basically just suck as much water out of their bodies as they can. And in the video, it was really sad. I couldn't watch more than 5 seconds of it because Joanna was crying in pain, and that's a tough person. She was crying in pain in the bathtub, wrapped in the towel, and I was just like, oh man, I cannot watch this. So that it has something to do with it. It's not everything, but it's something. It's something. Not everything, but something. So I like to see the way she went about preparing for this upcoming fight in the rematch. I'd like to see how she went about doing that. I think she went about doing that with the typical championship or champion mentality she usually has. And I think she'll come out and she'll prove that she is the better fighter. I do like Joanna in this fight, if you didn't know. But Rose is really good too. Rose has I think she's only lost to a couple people. The last one I remember her losing to was Carolina, and before that, I think it was she lost to Carla Esparza in her first fight. So can't really say much about that because she entered the UFC really, really young. So I don't know how much weight I put in that. But her other fights, she's looked really, really good. And she's beaten the girls she's fought down. Sadly, I like Paige Van Zandt, but sadly she beat the brakes off Paige Van Zandt. She was able to beat Tisha Torres. I remember that fight. That was a split decision or a unanimous decision. I don't remember. It went to decision though, and people didn't really like it. But I mean, if you know about how they score fights, you would know that she easily won it. And some of her other finishes. Oh, Michelle Waterson. I remember that fight. That one, I think Michelle Waterson, she's a really, really good fighter. I just don't think she's big enough which sounds weird because it's 115, but I don't think she's big enough for 115. Before the UFC, she fought at 105, and I think that's where she's best at, is 105, because she just, when she was in there against Rose, who isn't the biggest 115er, she looked small in there. So I think that says something. But that's still a good win because Michelle Waterson's really, really technical and really, really good. So, yeah, Rose is no joke. I really like Rose. I think her techniques, she's got good kicks. She's got some sneaky quick punches. They'll sneak up on you. If you've watched the past fights, she'll it'll surprise people when she hits them with some of the stuff. So, really like both of these fighters, but I think in the rematch, Joanna will take it. And Vegas has this one as a toss-up still. It's essentially a pick-em. Rose is minus 105 and Joanna's minus 125. So there's no favorite. essentially a pick'em. I'd take Joanna in this one, but this could be another situation like last time where, you know, I'd bet on Joanna, but I just have a feeling that Rose is gonna win. But I don't know if I have that. If I have that feeling this time, I think I'm pretty safe in saying, or I feel pretty safe in saying that Joanna is gonna win this next fight. So now to the moment we've all been waiting for: Max Holloway versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, I was really looking forward to Tony versus Khabib because that's the fight of the century, with, you know, fighting fans. People have thought that. And I think it'd be a really, really good fight. I don't know, fight of the century. I don't think their styles match up enough to be fight of the century. So people need to pump their brakes on that one. Will it be a really, really good fight between two really, really good fighters? Oh, definitely. Definitely. Do I want to see it? 100%. Will it be an all-timer? Pump the brakes on all-timer. When it happens, we'll see. But this Khabib versus Holloway fight, I didn't like it when it got announced. Holloway didn't fight like a month ago against Frankie Edgar because he broke his ankle, and he's been rehabbing it and was expected to fight sometime in July. So to take this fight on 6 days' notice after a month after breaking your ankle, one, pretty gangster, two, pretty stupid, especially against Khabib, because I don't know that Max Holloway is big enough or strong enough to come up and stop Khabib's takedowns. No one that's 155 has been able to stop Khabib's takedowns, and most of those guys are actual 155ers. One of them is even probably a 170er in Rafael dos Anjos. So you see some of that going on, and you just wonder why he took this. But I can tell you why Max took this. Because he knows that if he does go out there and has some crazy feat and destroys, you know, Khabib or beats Khabib, you know, it's going to mean that he rematches McGregor. He would have tied McGregor. He'd be the two weight champ at the same time, taking that only person to do that away. And I think that would really wake up Conor, to be honest. I think that would spark the fight. And that's why both of these guys want to win so bad, because they know that winning that means they fight Conor and they get the big payday. So I think, but also for Max, going back into this, I think that if he does win, not only will he become like a true fan favorite, this upcoming fight of him versus Conor would be insane. They definitely do it at 155, but I've been talking with my friends, you know, we've been making jokes like, what if they did it at 150 for both the belts? Which I think would be hilarious. I could see him doing it, to be honest. You know, because who cares? They want the belts, you know. They'd be the two of the biggest fighters, like biggest named fighters in the UFC. So why not let them do what they want, you know? But obviously you can't really do that. So that would be so crazy. Like I want Max Holloway to win because I really like Max. He's one of my favorite fighters. Don't get me wrong. I like him more than Khabib, but on 6 days' notice, coming up in weight, especially off an injury too, I see the upside. The upside is obvious. There's no downside, because if you lose to a bigger guy on 6 days' notice, I'm just trying to help out the company, you know, not in my weight class, don't lose the belt. There's no downside. Literally, doesn't lose the belt, fighting above his weight class, coming off an injury, helping the company, doing all this, keeping the card right. So it's really a no-lose situation for Holloway. Sure, he could get his head beat. That's obviously a loss. Like, you get your head beat in by Khabib for 5 rounds. That's no fun. No one wants to do that. But like I said, you know, we're doing gambling picks right here. Max Holloway is doing a gamble and betting on himself. If he's able to get this win, it would be insane. I would love to see it. But I don't think he'll be able to. And I think at this point, Vegas agrees with me because they have Khabib as a minus 450 favorite. Does not bode well for Max. But like I said enough about Max. I mean, the thing I see in it is to beat Khabib, you got to be strong enough to stuff a couple takedowns to buy yourself some time, to make Khabib try to fight you on the feet for a little, because you saw that with Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was able to stop his first two takedowns and get Khabib to kind of, try to go at it on the feet. And that's when you saw Michael Johnson go in and stun Khabib. And once he stunned Khabib, Khabib knew, he's like, okay, I'm not going to even play around with this anymore. And he went for the takedown. I think if you're going to be a fighter, you have to have extreme precision, which Max has some pretty good precision, but it's not to the level of a Conor McGregor. So, or like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson or something like that. So I don't know if he'll be able to capitalize on the chance he will be able to get if he's able to stop the takedown. So game plan, really, what I have to say is, to beat Khabib, you have to be able to stop the first few takedowns to get him to engage on the feet. Once he engages on the feet, there's going to be obvious openings because he's not that great on the feet. So you have to be fast enough and strong enough to take advantage of the openings you get from Khabib on the feet, and you have to be able to finish him from there. So Max Holloway, his style is really, really good. He's more of a brawler. He's a technical brawler, put it that way. Like he'll throw down and bang, like he did against Ricardo Lamas at the end of the fight when he just pointed at the ground and they just swung and went hard. He'll go and brawl, but he's also pretty technical, not to the high level, like I said, of Conor McGregor, but he's pretty technical. Like, he's got some really accurate punches. You could see versus Jose Aldo, he hit some pretty accurate punches. But so I think that's a big plus. He's got definitely easily the better striking over him. What we do need to see is his takedown defense, if he's able to stop Khabib. Because if you remember, and I know people are always like, oh, well, why do you use that? He was so young when it happened. Dude, give me a break. He was a fighter. It's on his record. You can't just discount it because you don't want to hear it. In his fight against Conor McGregor, he got taken down by Conor McGregor and kind of dominated on the ground by Conor McGregor. And for anybody who knows fighting, Conor McGregor's no ground technician. He can hold his own now. Now, I say now, but he can hold his own for the most part now on the ground, but he's by no means going out and dominating anyone on the ground. And not to mention, that was the fight where he tore his ACL. So with a torn ACL, takes Max Holloway down and kind of dominates him. Since then, you haven't really seen him go to the ground that much. I mean, people have tried and he's been able to stop it, but I don't know. Are they as strong as a Khabib would be? Definitely not. Will we see the true test? Yes, we'll see the true test on Saturday. So really looking forward to that fight. That's what Max has to offer. That's what you have to look out for. His ground game, his ability to stop a takedown, if that's improved at all. If that has improved, there is a chance. You see, that's why people think Tony Ferguson would have been able to beat Khabib, because he's really crafty on the ground. He gets Darce chokes and stuff like that. But I put it this way, I don't think Tony, he's less precise than Max Holloway. He's not really all that precise at all. So I don't think Tony would be able to beat Khabib, and I don't think either of those guys would be able to beat McGregor. What I do want to see more than I want to see Tony versus Conor, Khabib versus Conor, is Max versus Conor for a double weight. That's my dream right now. I got a lot of dreams in the UFC and in sports in general, but one of my new dreams is a 150-pound fight where Conor McGregor fights Max Holloway for both the titles. That's like some WWE-esque stuff right there, but can't disregard it. That's what I want to see. It's my dream. Let me dream, people, all right? Don't be haters. Anyways, that's what I think. Got my picks. I'll go over them again real fast. I'm not even going to go over the first two because yeah, who cares? Anyways, I got Moreno over Borg, Kovalevich over Herrig, Iaquinta over Felder, Qatar over Moicano, Jędrzejczyk over Namajunas, and Khabib over Max Holloway. So if you want to bet, take it to the bank. Like I said, I'm a high percentage guy, all right? I make picks and they come true. anyways, off that, I want to get into, I started off, I didn't want to go conspiracy right off the bat, but, I had to put a little buffer in there. I didn't want people to think I was too crazy. But here's my other conspiracy. Third conspiracy. Is it my last conspiracy? I don't know. Stay tuned. Find out. Find out if I'm truly crazy. But this next conspiracy. Okay, are the Rams overcompensating for what they think of Jared Goff? Now, I know this is weird. Jared Goff went out and he had a really good year last year. Obviously, he led them to the playoffs. And a playoff game that I think they honestly could have and maybe should have won. If not for some really, really terrible special teams, they would have won that game. So, they were in a good spot. But are they making all these offseason moves because they believe in Jared Goff and they think he's able to do this? Like, he's able to take us, we're going all in? Or are they saying, this surrounding team is so good, it doesn't matter who we have at quarterback, we just need more talent to make sure the quarterback can't mess it up? I don't know. I think Jared Goff's a really, really good quarterback, and I like him, but what's his signature moment? What big game did he ever have? His offense was so insane. His line, great. Running back, great. Receivers, great. Tight end is the only place he was really lacking. And even then, his tight ends weren't trash. So, what big game, what signature moment did he have during the season? I can't point to any. I don't know. Maybe he progresses even more. He's a young guy, obviously. Another year in the system, But that could make a difference. Sure, he could become better. But I just don't think that's the case. I think the Rams obviously see their team is really, really good. That's why they went out and got all these players. That's why they went out and got a Talib, a Peters, a Sue, a Cooks. They know that they have a certain window and they want to capitalize because they're not going to be able to keep all these guys under contract, no matter what you think. They're not going to be able to keep all these guys under contract, and that's a fact. So they want to capitalize on the window. So no matter what you think, obviously they're capitalizing on the window, but I think the only real argument comes in is, do they think Jared Goff is that good, or do they think that he's not that good, where they need more talent to support him? I don't know. It could be me being nitpicky, like a Skip Bayless type thing, like, oh, LeBron can't do this without all these supporting members. It's like, no, he just wants to win easier. So you could make that argument. I could be being a Skip Bayless. I don't know. I do think that overall the Rams are one of the best teams, if not the most talented team in the NFL, one of the most talented teams. I think the Eagles come close, or the Eagles are obviously up there. They compete. So it's I don't know. I think it's an interesting argument. I'd like to hear what other people have to think about this idea I have. I don't have much else to go off of other than the fact that no signature games. His supporting cast was great. Coach, obviously great. Maybe they, I don't know. All I do know is that the Rams are going to be a really good team this year. Do I know why they're doing it? No. Do I want to figure out? Yeah. Give me another week. Let it marinate a little longer. We'll see. The Rams right now only have a couple draft picks. I think they got a third, a fourth, and a sixth. So, I don't know. We'll see what they're able to do. That was my third conspiracy of the day. And I'm going to take a break going crazy on these conspiracies. I'm going to go bounce over to NBA real quick. And no, you know what? First, I'm going to bounce over to the NCAA. This is going to be another quick one. The Rams one was a quickie. This one's going to be another quickie. The NCAA National Championship game, that happened over a week ago, last Monday. Not very fun to watch. Or no, that happened not over a week ago. That happened on Monday. Not very fun to watch. The first half was pretty fun to watch, actually. There was a close game. Michigan was holding in there, and they were actually winning for a good part of the first half. I think 75% of the first half they were winning. So it was a good game in the beginning. They were going back and forth, but after a while, Villanova and Jay Wright. Jay Wright's just such a good coach. Like, he's able to get more out of his players than a lot of other coaches are, and the plays he draws up, and the way, I don't know, the way he just is able to use his team. And I also think that goes into some of these college teams needing more continuity. I think a lot of these guys don't have that much time to practice together. Like, they're there for a year. They don't practice together all that much. They don't know each other all that well. And I think you see these older, more experienced teams, experience with each other, experience in big games, experience in other areas. They're able to do better because they've seen it before. So I think that has something to do with it. I think Jay Wright being a really good coach has something to do with it. I think they probably just were the more talented team with the better coach. So, you don't usually win with a worse coach and a worse team. So, yeah, Dante DiVincenzo, he went off, scored like 30, was it? I'm pretty sure it was 30. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very fun game. I think by the end they won by like 18. Who cares? I mean, they weren't the two best teams in the conference. I think the best game for me, in all honesty, probably would have been Villanova versus Duke. That probably would have been the best game to see. Villanova versus Duke. There wasn't really any other team that put up much of a fight. In all honesty, I think you saw Villanova versus Kansas. Villanova ran them off the floor. So that's out of there, and you could make the argument, hey, Duke lost to Kansas. What's up with that? Why do you think they'd fare better? I just think big coaches in big games are able to, put their team up to another level. But one thing I do think is things happen in cycles, and this cycle was pretty quick, this one and done cycle. So I think that cycle's over. I think people are going to want some more veteran players, and people are going to stray away from the one and done, and maybe that's a good thing because colleges are going to want better teams, and they know that there's no high school stars. Other than like a LeBron, there's no high school stars. So getting these big guys isn't going to make your team like significantly more popular. Winning is going to make your team more popular. So because I think a lot of it has to do with most college students being super fair weather. So, yeah, most college students, if you didn't know, extremely fair weather. Unless you go to a school like Alabama or like one of those eastern, like southern schools, southeastern schools, it's more fair weather than anything. So, I think they're going to see that winning drives their revenue more than having these big name players, and I think that'll play into also the NBA getting rid of the one and done rule. I think they're gonna modify it so it's gonna be like you don't have to come in to the NBA, or you don't have to wait a year to come into the NBA, but if you do choose to wait, you have to wait 2 to 3 years, and I think that's fair. I think if you think you can come out. But I think if you decide to go to college, you can't just go and use the college for 1 year. You have to go and at least get I think that's a really good compromise too. I think you have to at least get an associate's before you can come to the NBA. Because you're going to college for a reason. You're going to play in college for a reason. And if you're not as great of an athlete as you think, where I'm not going to be able to go to the NBA straight out of high school. You're obviously going to college for a reason because you don't think you're good enough to make it. And it's not to say that you won't be able to, or you won't be good enough to make it in the NBA no matter what, but you obviously had doubts at some point. So I think it's better to create your fallback plan early. I think in the end, you get rid of the one and done rule, but you modify it to make it say, if you do choose to go to the NBA or do choose to go to college, you have to stay for 2 or more years. I think that's fair. I think associate's degree, and then you can come back and finish in 2 more years once you tried out the NBA after that. I think that's more than fair. I think that's a really good compromise, and I think people will like it. So that's my thoughts on the NCAA championship game tanking and all that. Oh, one more thing too. Jay Wright, I think he should come coach the Suns. As a Suns fan, please come coach the Suns. I beg you. But anyways, next I want to bounce to the NBA. LeBron and the Cavs, of course. What would one of my shows be without talking about LeBron? Nothing. That's right. You're right. Okay, cool. At least we're on the same page. LeBron and the Cavs with Kevin Love, it's just clear they're a different team. And again, they prove it. They handled the Raptors. They showed the Raptors who was boss. The Raptors came in thinking, oh, we're the 1 seed. People in the media, they're like, oh, they're the 1 seed. They could totally challenge the Cavs. Hey, dude, yeah, right. Yeah, right. What has been one of the consistent teams, or one of the consistent components of a good LeBron team since, honestly, he was in the league, came into the league? I mean, you could exclude the first few years when he was just really able to go all energy, all game, But since he started to age a tiny bit, because he really hasn't even aged, and he's 33, which is insane. But what's the one key component that his teams have needed? It's a stretch 4. They've all needed a stretch 4. And what did they not have when Kevin Love is out? A stretch 4. They have Larry Nance and Tristan Thompson in there. 2 guys who can't shoot the 3 and spread the court. So that's one really, really big key, I think, to a LeBron team's success. And that's one thing he will need in the future, which is another thing I want to talk about. But I want to go back into this. So yeah, the Raptors are fakers. They faked. They've been fake. They won't be able to challenge the Cavs. LeBron has their number. LeBron owns them. Whatever you want to say, LeBron does to them. LeBron is basically like the neighborhood bully, and he just goes over, and sometimes he won't even feel like bullying the Raptors. He'll just be like, eh. And he'll just be like, eh. He'll see him, the Raptors will start to cower, and he'll just be like, he'll like fake the punch, and then he'll walk away and be like, eh. That's what he does to the Raptors. I think there's no way the Raptors are gonna be able to compete with the Cavs. People now, since they lost to the Cavs, they're like, oh, the Raptors aren't gonna make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, they will. They'll make it to the Eastern Conference Finals where they'll get swept by the Cavs or lose in 5. The Cavs aren't either. Another thing, they're not getting the credit they deserve. When they have Kevin Love, they've looked really, really, really good. Kevin Love and all their guys, they've looked really good. Without Kevin Love, you saw last week or 2 weeks ago, Kevin Love goes down, gets elbowed in the face, leaves the game, they end up losing. They end up going down and losing to the Heat. Do I think part of that has to do with LeBron not wanting to try anymore? Oh, most definitely. He sees Kevin Love went out. He's like, oh, I'm going to have to put too much energy into this. So he's like, maybe I'll just save it for tomorrow night. And that's part of it. Part of it is the Cavs are just a lot better with Kevin Love in the game. And this is like a hidden thing. Like right now, obviously, the most valuable player to the Cavs, hands down by far, you can't even make any arguments, obviously, is LeBron. But I think if you want to put a second place, it's by far Kevin Love. So it would go 1, LeBron, 30 feet, Kevin Love. 700 feet, then whoever else you want to put. I don't think there's another, player that comes close to the value for the team as those guys. And another thing I think you will see a lot is them using Ante Zizic in the playoffs, but that's another story. I don't think I need to go too much in depth with that. But anyways, yeah, Kevin Love is a lot more valuable than people give him credit for. So, and I think if you went out and looked at the stats and compared them, I don't have them in front of me, but I think it'd be pretty obvious to see the difference when they do versus when they don't have Kevin Love. And that's a big reason why they weren't winning consistently with the new squad before Kevin Love came, was because Kevin Love wasn't there. They didn't have the floor stretcher. I think if they had if they hadn't traded Channing Frye, which they kind of had to for the cap space reasons, but if they had Channing Frye, I don't think you would have seen such a big drop-off with the new squad. I think it would have looked a little bit different because at least while Channing Frye's not insane, he's still got an element of floor stretcher and he's able to stretch the floor, like to a certain extent. So do with that what you will. Anyways, I think I think the Cavs and LeBron are in really good shape, and I think for the finals you'll see that they're a lot better than people are giving them credit for. Like, it's weird how they think they won't stand a chance in the finals. Give me a break. I think they'll end up facing the Rockets most likely, like I predicted the whole season, or for most of the season. I think they'll end up playing the Rockets. People are like, oh, D'Antoni's known to choke, Chris Paul known to choke, James Harden known to choke, all that stuff. It's like, come on. There's a certain point where some of these guys get over it, and I think to a certain extent, you could say this is the best team that Mike D'Antoni has had. Because that Suns team was really good, but now he's got James Harden, who, I'm sorry, loves Steve Nash, but James Harden's a lot better than Steve Nash. And it's not to say Steve Nash isn't good, it's just that's how good Harden is. So Harden's a good amount better than Steve Nash, and then you got Chris Paul to back that up, who's even, if not better, than Steve Nash as well. So I think you got the factors of a better player. Their supporting casts, I think the supporting casts are similar. Outside the top two, I mean, they're very, very similar. They can be compared. I mean, I think you could compare Mbah Moute to Sean Marion. I think, there's a lot of comparisons that can be drawn. But overall, don't buy into any Rockets hate or any Cavs hate, because they're going to be in the finals and it's going to be a really good final series. But one thing I think I said I said last week that the Warriors need to watch out for the Jazz. Well, now they need to watch out for the Thunder, because the Jazz have been winning, but the Thunder have lost a couple, and they're about to hit the 7th seed. If they hit the 7th seed, I think they can take out the Warriors without Steph Curry. Now, sure, they did lose the other night, but it would be a 7-game series. So I think it'd be really interesting to see if they'd be able to. That's my first round. That's one of the first round matchups I really want to see, is the Warriors versus the Thunder, because I think the Thunder will be able to rise to the occasion and take out the Warriors in a 7-game series. I think that would be one of the best matchups in the playoffs, because not a lot of them will be competitive. I think that the West will have a lot of good matchups. The East obviously won't. But some of the West's ones, in the beginning at least, won't be very interesting. I don't think the Spurs are all that great, especially without Kawhi. I don't think that the Trailblazers in the later rounds will be able to put up much of a fight, even though they've been really good. I just don't believe in them yet. I don't think they have another it guy outside of Damian Lillard. I think McCollum's good, but he's really streaky. So those will be things to really look for in the upcoming weeks. But one other thing is, no, actually that's it. I covered everything. Next. Excited for this one. Diamondbacks in first place. Some people would say great success. Yeah, I'd say that too. The Diamondbacks have looked really, really good. They have only lost one game, which they could have very easily won. A game Zach Greinke pitched really, really well in. His pitch count got a little high. He got taken out in the 6th inning, I think. So, what can you do? I think he pitched well, though, especially with the concerns he had in spring training. Last year I didn't really buy into him. I thought he just wanted rest. But once it happened again this year, I thought something would be up. But his control of the ball has been really, really good. So I think he'll be able to finish this year out. Next year will be something we'll probably have to look out for. But this year I think he should be fine. He's been hitting the 90s, so can't ask for too much than that. Or can't ask for much more than that. But to replace Greinke, I think the D-backs are pretty safe going with Corbin as their new number 1 pitcher. boy, oh boy, did he look good against the Dodgers. He was on fire. 12 strikeouts, only one hit, almost a complete game shutout. That was great. That was one of the best performances from Patrick Corbin that I've seen in a long time. He was really good last year, don't get me wrong, but he had nothing extremely dominant like that. So I really like to see that. Coming up, I think the new rotation will probably be 1 Corbin, 2 Ray, 3 Greinke. It's weird. It's a weird thing with Robbie Ray too. Robbie Ray is like a way better pitcher on the road than he is at home, and I don't get it. Like usually most guys are better at home. Robbie Ray's the opposite. He's really, really good on the road. So look, because his first game wasn't that great at home, but look to him in his game today to be really, really effective against the Cardinals on the road. I'd like to see that. I think we will see that. But they got that. Their bullpen's looking good. Their hitting's looking good, even with Jake Lamb going out on the 10-day DL. I think they'll be fine. They're hitting perfectly fine. I mean, Goldie's in a slump, which I don't like to see. Obviously, Goldie's my favorite player on the D-backs. Corbin, my second favorite, but Goldie being in a slump is not very good. He'll break out of it soon, though. You know how it is. Baseball season's a long season. We're only like 8 games in. So while I am giving all these high praises, maybe I have to pump the brakes on myself. I don't want to, though. I'm on a hype train, and I'm going to stay on until the train gets derailed. Most likely in the playoffs, which will be sad and make me cry. But hopefully it's not till after the World Series when we win. So staying aboard the hype train, not letting people get to me, you know. Just gonna hype myself up after a while, you know. Whatever. Last story of the day, and then I'm gonna get into a mock draft, and then I'll do my bets. This is a bit of a longer show, you know. Going for the marathon this week, why not? This last story before the mock draft and the bets. RG3 to the Ravens. I like this. I honestly think that RG3 is better than Flacco. Flacco's alright, but he's been really garbage his last few years. And I think RG3 with a better system, I think the Ravens have a good system. They have a stable team. The Browns weren't stable, and RG3 still wasn't bad. He wasn't terrible. Obviously wasn't great. He was okay with the Browns. I think that says something. But one thing I can say is that Joe Flacco is not very good. He gets carried by his defense and other member of his team a lot. Last year, he had lower yards per completion than a few guys did running the ball. So to put that into perspective, every time Joe Flacco completed a pass, on average, it was for less yards than some of the top rushers had rushing the ball. So I'm pretty sure Joe Flacco's yards per completion number was something like 5.2. And some of the league's highest rushers, like I know Alvin Kamara had like something like a 7. Kareem Hunt had somewhere in the 6s. There's a lot of guys who rushed for more yards per attempt than Joe Flacco had per passing attempt, which is sad. Quarterbacks usually go for like 10, and he went for half that. And I think that shows what kind of player Flacco is, and it's not a good one. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Joe Flacco got beat out, or if Flacco gets hurt like he usually does, that RG3 comes in, and I'd like to see him in there. I think that the Ravens need a running back pretty bad. I mean, they had Alex Collins last year, but they need a real like franchise changer, a guy who can catch passes too. I think if they get that in the draft with like Sony Michel, I just thought of that. Sony Michel on the Ravens with RG3, with Michael Crabtree, with John Ross, that might be a really good pick. If they can pick up like a tight end and Sony Michel, the Ravens will be good next year. Thinking about that, that's actually not that bad. Anyways, I like that pickup. People want to make the complaint. They're like, oh, why is RG3 on a team but not Kaepernick? I'll tell you why. Because Kaepernick's an idiot. Kaepernick does nothing but, drum up drum up confrontation. That's all he does. Especially in a backup quarterback, you don't want. This is what happens. And I explained it before, but I'll explain it again really quick. One bad game, this won't happen with RG3, but one bad game from Joe Flacco and people will be like, oh, why don't you start Kaepernick? He's better, blah, 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 blah. And then people in the team are going to start fighting with each other like, oh, I'm Team Kaepernick, I'm Team Flacco. Yeah, they don't need that. That won't happen with RG3 unless Flacco's like really bad for a really long period of time. So that's part of it. And you know why, like, if you're a true sports fan, you know why people don't support Kaepernick as much if you're an actual fan of football and not some fan of football in disguise, you know, or some social activist in disguise as a fan of football, you know. Okay, so that's that. Anyways, I'm going to skip the mock draft for this week. I'm going to go next week on the mock draft because I want to wait until I could predict a couple trades. I actually do predict a couple trades, but I want to wait and see if they'll actually happen first because I don't want to predict all these trades and then something happens and, you know, have to do another mock draft all over again because these things take a long time. And this podcast is already running a little bit and, you know, don't want to be an ear beater. So I'm just going to jump right into bets. We'll get this mock draft next week. You guys will like it, I promise. So, first game of the night, we got Charlotte at Orlando, minus 5.5. Actually, I'd take Charlotte minus 5.5. Or no, you know what? Take Orlando minus 5.5 or plus 5.5. They're at home, even though they're very bad. I don't know that Dwight Howard and Kemba Walker will be able to push the gap that much where they'll win by 6. That one's a tough one. It's a close one because it's weird. The Hornets are just a weird team. Like they have some good players. They just can't put anything together at all. So I don't know what to think of the Hornets. Like they'll play some teams close, or they'll play some good teams close, but then they'll lose to bad teams. I don't get it. I would definitely take the Magic plus 5.5. That's the safe pick. For some reason, Dallas at Detroit does not have a line, so can't bet that one. Here we go. Cleveland at Philadelphia. Philly minus 3. And Westgate, Las Vegas has Philly minus 3.5. Okay. If you want to make lots of money right now, go take Cleveland plus 3 at Philadelphia and then thank me later. Okay, thank me later after you win this bet. Especially if you go to Westgate. Okay, the opening was plus 3. But at Westgate, Las Vegas, that book, they're plus 3.5. That means Philadelphia has to beat them by 4. Are you kidding me? Take Cleveland plus 3.5. Oh my God. I'm gonna place that bet. Like I usually don't place my bets afterwards because I'm not a huge like bettor. I like to make picks in my head, you know, and see how I do. And sometimes I'll occasionally bet when it's things like this. Take Cleveland plus 3.5. Don't be dumb. Be smart. Be smart. Take my advice. Okay. Now next game. Washington minus 12.5 at home against the Hawks. Take Washington minus 12.5. It's a big line, but it's a big line for a reason. The Wizards just got back John Wall, and they got some stuff to prove, and they want to lock up a seed. So they're going to be playing hard. And I don't know that the Hawks have anything to offer the Wizards. So definitely just take the Wizards plus 12 or minus 12.5. Next game, this is a weird head scratcher. Miami minus... Oh, I see it now. I was reading it backwards. Miami minus 9 at New York. Okay, that makes more sense. Miami did just clinch a playoff spot. I don't know if they're looking to move up in the standings. They could be, though. So I would definitely take them minus 9 at the Knicks because the Knicks have nothing to play for. In fact, they have a lot of stuff to lose for. So I would definitely take the Heat -9. Next, we got the Pacers +8 at the Raptors. The Raptors did see what the Raptors did. They got humiliated by the Cavs. They got handled. Even though the score doesn't show they got handled, they were down 12 with like a minute left, and the Cavs pulled their starters. So don't think the Cavs didn't handle them just because the end score was closer than it looked. But they came out the next game and they redeemed themselves. They proved it was like they played the Celtics and they're like, look, see, that wasn't truly us. This is what we are. But meanwhile, the Celtics don't have half their team in there, so I don't buy into that much. I do think the Raptors are playing hard, and I do think they'll beat the Pacers by more than 8, especially at home. The Pacers don't play very well on the road, which is why I don't think they'll go deep into the playoffs as a 4 seed or a 5 seed at this point, which I think they are. So take the Raptors -8. I'm taking lots of favorites tonight. I don't know. Maybe it's why they're favorites. Because they're better teams. I don't know. I'm taking lots of favorites, though, and I don't know if I like it. Next game, we got Chicago at Boston. Chicago is +11. Oh, no, actually, Chicago's +10 at Boston. So, you know what? I would take Chicago +10. The Celtics just found out they lost Kyrie. They don't have much to play for. The Cavs, it's very unlikely that the Cavs will catch them. I don't know if they can at this point. I don't think they can, at least. So they don't have much to play for. Kyrie's out for the season. Gordon Hayward's out for the season. They got a bunch of young guys. I don't see that this game being super high scoring, especially after they only scored like 78 against the Raptors. So not very high scoring means not very large point spread. So don't take the Celtics beating the Bulls by more than 10. I take the Bulls +10 in this one. They will cover. But they won't win outright, trust me. Last game looks like... Oh, no. 3 more games. Actually, 2 more, because this Lakers versus Timberwolves game doesn't have a line either. That's weird. But next game, Sacramento at Memphis. Memphis is -3. Memphis is pulling a real good tanking job. So I like Sacramento +3. Sacramento at least tries to play hard sometimes. So take them +3. I don't think Memphis is trying to win anything, especially now since the Suns luckily started to beat them out for last place. Suns are doing a real good tank job. See, what the Suns like to do is they'll go out in the first half and they'll win. They'll be winning. They'll lead at half. And then they'll go in at half. They'll be like, see, we showed them what we can do. Now we got to go out and do what we're meant to do this season. Then they go out in the second half and they blow it on purpose and they tank. Yeah, I'm saying it. They lose on purpose. If that wasn't obvious, of course, by sitting TJ Warren and Devin Booker. But that's the next game. Anyways, take Sacramento +3. Last game of the night, Pelicans -10.5 at the Suns. Take that line to the bank because I think the Pelicans will most likely beat the Suns by more than 11 because they're fighting for a playoff spot. They need to get it. And like I said, the Suns are in tank mode, full-on tank mode. Devin Booker's had a cold for like a month and a half. He can't play. TJ Warren fell and skinned his knee. That's a season ender. I'm surprised Josh Jackson didn't, strain a muscle getting off the toilet. I don't know. They come up with some crazy injuries that these guys are out with. Oh, Alfred Payton, someone hit his hair. So that's automatic season ender. Can't play. He's playing really well, so it was sad too to see his hair get hit. Now he's out for the season. So I don't think the Suns are trying very hard. They go out. They don't play bad. They in the first half of a lot of these games, they're leading, and then in the second half, they just lose. Like against the Warriors, they were up by like 12 at one point on the Warriors without Devin Booker and all these other guys. So I think that goes to show what they're about. They show that they can win, but they don't want to, which is essential to tanking. It shows enough to give hope, but then they lose to accumulate those draft picks, which is kind of what I like to see. It's what I'm in for. Those are my picks for April 6th, Friday, April 6th. Next week, we'll look back in. We'll see. I'll give an update on all my picks. I got to add them back up, see what my overall record is. It went down a little bit because of the NCAA tournament, all those crazy games, but we will overcome. I'll go like 90% for these next few weeks and build my picks percentage back up. We'll see. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope you tune in next week. Again, sorry for the late upload, but I'm a busy man, got lots of stuff to do. Not saying this isn't important, but some things have to be prioritized, like my tests and my dad's birthday. So anyways, I hope to see you back here next week. Please leave me feedback, email me, tweet me, whatever. Twitter will be in the description. Email will be in the description. I think my Twitter will be in the intro to the video as well. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next week. Peace out.